So first off, how many people have a relative or friend so bad with computers that they struggle on even the most basic tasks such as checking email? Well, interesting enough, Minesweeper was a game that was originally shipped with Windows with the sneaky intent to help people learn how to use a computer mouse and point and click on things, which may sound silly to any of you, but back when computers were new, the concept of a mouse was unheard of to most normal people. It got picked over many other games due to it being far more enjoyable and simple than the other proposed games, and due to its price point of absolutely free and its short game length, it's easy to enjoy a quick game every so often. I myself have played Minesweeper for quite some time now, and have gained enough skill to pass even the hardest difficulties, yet despite that, the game is incredibly approachable to a newcomer. Minesweeper is a free game that with just a little basic strategy, any of you can beat as long as you have a computer. So today, I'll go into how Minesweeper itself came to be, some very simple basic strategies on how to play it, and even show you a sample game and put the strategies I explained to practical use. But before that, let's start at the very beginning, from before Minesweeper even existed. Minesweeper came out in the 1990s around when I was born, but the earlier computer programmers as far back as the 60s were making games similar to Minesweeper as they programmed computers. In the 90s, however, according to GameSetWatch.com, the modern game of Minesweeper was made by two programmers for Microsoft, Robert Donner and Kurt Johnson, who made the game together as they were working on programming Windows itself. Microsoft wanted to put together a pack of free games, and when Minesweeper was submitted, it very quickly found a lot of support in the office as being incredibly enjoyable for how simple it was. And just as it got into that first game pack in the 90s, it was automatically included on every Windows PC up until Windows 7. But don't fret if you're interested in trying but don't have Windows 10 or a new version. It is available, still for free, on the Windows Game Store. Now, a game that exists for 30 odd years tends to have most, if not all, of its strategy and secrets discovered, thought about, built upon, and optimized, and Minesweeper is no exception. It's considered a solved game, which means it's possible for a computer or an incredible player to always have the best move that makes their highest chance of winning. Wait, highest chance? Some of you may wonder why it isn't a 100% success rate, and that lies in the fact that due to the random nature of where mines can be, sometimes you end up with a choice that is purely chance and can't be solved with strategy. However, it's still quite valuable to know strategy, so I'm going to teach you 3 simple strategies with the aid of pictures from minesweeper.info, which is actually the site I learned strategy from myself when I was just starting. The first basic strategy is literally just counting. It's easy to find numbers where every available square has to be a mine. In this first example, the 1 is on a corner and only has 1 square next to it, so it has to be a mine. In the second example, you can see the lower 2 on the right only has 2 squares next to it, meaning both are mines. And in this third example, you can see the middle 3 in the row only has 3 squares, meaning they are likewise all mines. This sort of simple counting can go all the way up to 8, but you're very unlikely to ever see more than a 4 or 5 unless you start playing seriously. The second and third main strategy require just a little more logic, but are still quite easy once you get them. The second strategy is called the 1-1 rule. As you can see in the picture, the first number to the very left is a 1 with 2 squares. This means that one of those 2 squares has to be a mine. Because of that, the second one shares that same mine in one of its first 2 squares, but the third square cannot possibly have a mine because it's already spoken for in the first 2. One thing to note, that a wall in this case could be the wall itself, but it could also be another already solved square or even a mine itself. Now, the third main strategy is basically the inverse of the first, called the 1-2 rule. Using this final picture as a guide, you can see that if you have a 1 and then a 2 from the wall, then the third square will always be a mine. This is because, again, the first 1 means there's only 1 mine in those first 2 squares, but that second 2 needs 2 mines and can only put 1 in those first 2 squares, meaning the third square has to be a mine. Using these three strategies, you can easily complete most easy games and even some intermediate if you're careful enough. But to go further, it's mostly just using the 1-2 and 1-1 rules in combinations and recognizing them within larger numbers. Now that you have learned the basics, though, let's try to solve a fairly easy board real quick. This board is the size of an easy board, but with a few more mines than usual to help these strategies show up. Board of Minesweeper, you click anywhere to get started, and it'll give you stuff like this. And then you can just start by using your basic counting strategies. You got ones on corners, this 3, and that just opens up more to be revealed. Same thing here, you got ones. 1-2-1 is an interesting one because it's actually the 1-2 rule on both sides. And now you have a 1-1, so that this can't be, which means that these can't be. This 1 is on a corner, which solves it from this end. And then these two have to be mines. You got a corner right here, and now we have another 1-1, which will open up this square for us, which opens this one, and we know that this isn't, and then it solves the board. As you can see, a game of Minesweeper can be solved fairly easily and quickly with the right strategies. Minesweeper is a game where you can play a couple rounds waiting for something like your online class to start, or just for some fun. I'll leave you with this. Minesweeper is an old but solid game about trying to survive in a minefield using nothing but your own wits and some simple math. Quick, simple, and satisfying to play, I can see why it's been around so long. And while Minesweeper may have been initially included on Windows to help people learn how to be comfortable using a mouse to point and click at things, I figure you all don't need that sort of help. However, it will always help you combat boredom and learn how to recognize patterns in math, two very valuable traits. Thank you for listening, and I hope you give it a try.